Hello and welcome to Bizarro World News, the most scientifically biased news network that I know of. Today we're going to talk about Hurricane Irma. Irma is a Category 5 hurricane, the category of a hurricane being the way we describe the speed of the sustained winds that encompass the storm. Category 1 has winds from 74 to 95 miles an hour. Category 5 has winds of 157 miles per hour or higher, the worst you can get. It's no small thing to describe Irma as the largest, most destructive hurricane over the Atlantic to ever be recorded. And as Irma approached Florida, media outlets sounded the warning bell loud and often, warning citizens of the oncoming devastation and danger, and rightly so. When there's a threat to the public welfare, the media has an obligation to talk about it. Which brings us to one Mr. Rush Limbaugh. Mr. Limbaugh is a conservative author and radio personality who broadcasts from Florida and spent a good deal of time on Tuesday, September 5th on his program talking about Hurricane Irma. Sadly, he was not providing listeners with survival tips or words of warning. He was arguing that the hurricane was being used as a tool to advance a climate change agenda, mixed with fear-mongering for retail stores to boost their sales and profits. Let me read you a quote from the program. "There is a desire to advance this climate change agenda, and hurricanes are one of the fastest and best ways to do it. You can accomplish a lot just by creating fear and panic. You don't need a hurricane to hit anywhere. All you need is to create the fear and panic accompanied by talk that climate change is causing hurricanes and to become more frequent and bigger and more dangerous, and you create panic. And then it's mission accomplished, agenda advanced." End quote. You can go to his website and read the transcription yourself. As of right now, it's still posted up there. Though if you do, pay attention. Pay specifically attention to the number of times he describes himself as unbiased, and that people who accept the fact of human influence climate change as totally biased. Well, here at Bizarro News Network, we proudly proclaim our scientific bias. Proudly. Science is the only method of understanding and explanation that can be overturned by new evidence. Wherever you find people fighting the scientific understanding, you find people who don't really get science. If the data supports something other than human-caused climate change, scientists will follow that data. That's how science works. And that, dear viewer, is why science is the bee's knees. It's just the best. Having a bias for truth, a bias for evidence, is something one would hope we'd all strive for. So Rush Limbaugh comes out swinging on Tuesday, arguing the hurricane coverage in the media is just hype to push a climate change agenda. Yet 2 days later, he's evacuating Florida with his staff to parts unknown. I guarantee none of this will change Mr. Limbaugh's mind about the state of the world in regards to climate, nor will it change the minds of any of his fans. Because that's his job. He lives and spreads a worldview in which man-made climate change does not fit. When things like the largest storm to ever be recorded over the Atlantic come along, there's a lot of people who don't believe the science, and they turn to folks like Rush Limbaugh to hear these kinds of arguments because it makes them feel better. It soothes the cognitive dissonance of believing in something that doesn't get reflected in reality as best we know it. And Rush Limbaugh is a pro. He's been doing this since 1984. He makes scores of people feel better about ignoring things that exist but don't fit with their worldview. As Upton Sinclair once wrote, "It is difficult to get a man to understand something when his salary depends on his not understanding it." Any explanation of Hurricane Irma that doesn't include science, but does include conspiracy, right or left-wing conspiracy, doesn't matter, shouldn't be listened to by anyone. As always, I'm Dan. This is Bizarro World News. Thank you. Don't forget to like and share.
boop.